And welcome to the ALCTS webinar, Mobilizing the Library, Shifting the Focus of the Academic Library to a Student-Centered Technology Perspective. My name is Wade Wyckoff, and I'm a member of the ALCTS Continuing Education Committee. Our presenters today are Sonia Betts and Robert Zylstra of MacEwan University in Edmonton, Alberta. Sonia is MacEwan's Web and User Experience Librarian, a role she assumed after several years as a liaison librarian for MacEwan's English department. Robert is Music and Performing Arts Librarian and brings a background as a systems librarian to his current work in reference and instruction. If you have questions for Robert and Sonia during the presentation, please type them into the question box on your screen, and our speakers will answer them at the conclusion of their presentation. For the Twitter users in the audience, we invite you to use the hashtag ALCTSCE to continue the conversation. Also, please note that today's session will be recorded, and you will receive an email with a link to the recording shortly after the conclusion of the webinar. A copy of Sonia and Robert's slides will also be provided. And with that, we're ready to go. There may be a slight delay as I pass the session over to our presenters.
Hello, everybody. Robert and I are coming to you from MacEwan University in sunny, beautiful Edmonton, Alberta, Canada. And we're here today to talk to you quite a bit about improving the user experience in your online environments. We'll start with some background to introduce you to the current context of users and technology. We'll provide you with an overview of this idea of user experience, and we'll discuss a problem that's pretty common in library online spaces. And then we're going to talk quite a bit about some solutions and include a demo of the library app we built to begin solving some of our pretty serious user experience problems. So just to give you a little bit of context, MacEwan University is a medium-sized undergraduate university in Edmonton, Alberta. We have nearly 14,000 full-time equivalent credit students enrolled in 68 different programs. So we have a really diverse crowd of users in our community. So that's a little bit about us. I would like to ask you now a little bit about yourselves. So we've got a poll question that I think is going to come up in your dashboard somewhere. So I would like to know, do you use a mobile device? Just a simple yes or no poll question. So far we've got 100% of people, yes, do indeed use a poll or a mobile device. Anyone else going to answer our poll? 93% of you have voted, so looks good. Okay, so that's a pretty common response. We're pretty high-tech people in libraries. I'm going to ask you a second question now, which is, do you use, in the past week, did you use your mobile device, either a smartphone or a tablet, to look up factoids on the internet, find reviews or recommendations, or used an app to do something? So make a grocery list, watch Netflix, use online banking, or some such thing. So this is pretty interesting. So 100% of you, oh, we're changing the numbers pretty quickly here. Fairly high numbers. So of those of you that have voted, 93% have looked up factoids on the internet, 85% have found reviews or recommendations, and 91% of you have used an app to do something. So either make a grocery list, watch Netflix, online banking, etc. So congratulations, everybody. You guys are well above the general population when it comes to use of your cell phones. But it's something to keep in mind. I know that we use these devices on a regular basis ourselves, but how are our customers and our users actually engaging in this particular environment? So we know that smartphone ownership is increasing. All of us, I think, own a smartphone when we didn't a few years ago. In the UK, 60% of the population now owns cell phones. So that's a huge number. In the US, adult smartphone ownership stands at about 45%, but you can see how the numbers increase as age decreases. So the highest percentage of ownership is, perhaps not surprisingly, in that 18 to 29 year age bracket, with a whopping 66% of those folks owning a cell phone. What I find more interesting, though, is how people are actually using their devices to access online resources. So again, this is results from the UK. Over half of smartphone users use their phones to access websites. And in the US, that number is similar at about 55%. 17% of US cell phone owners do most of their online browsing on their phone rather than a computer or other device. So it's becoming the preferred item. I hear I need to talk a little bit louder here. We'll just improve my microphone positioning. Does that sound better? So smartphones are becoming an incredibly convenient point-of-need information tool. Nearly half of smartphone owners reported using their phones to settle arguments, decide whether to visit a business, or solve an unexpected problem. So just from my little poll earlier, it sounds like most of us also use our phones to do those same sorts of things. A final point worth noting is that the tablet computer market. It's outstripping even smartphones and gobbling up market share and gaining prominence. I don't know how many of you are familiar with the Horizon report. It's a higher ed report. And in 2013, that Horizon report identified tablet computers as a key near-term technology trend for higher ed. And technology journalists are predicting that tablets will outsell the PC and laptop markets combined in 2013. And just to demonstrate how quickly those numbers are rising, in December 2011, 10% of American adults owned a tablet. By January 2012, so over the Christmas rush, that number had nearly doubled up to 19%. So in 1 month's time, the number of people owning a tablet increased. By October of 2012, it was at 25%, so another 6% increase. And by January of this year, 2013, it was up to 31%. So that number is shooting through the roof faster than anyone predicted. So tablets are definitely the fastest growing market for devices in the US and in Canada as well. So people did see this coming. This is a cover from a 2010 issue of Wired magazine that looked at the changing nature of our relationship with the web. It's titled, "The Web is Dead, Long Live the Internet." And the authors, Chris Anderson and Michael Wolff, investigated how we use the web. What they found really was that the internet is not disappearing, obviously, right? We're not surprised by that. But how we get to it and how we use it is changing dramatically from a browser or PC-based use to customized apps for specific tasks. So a really designed, directed, and polished experience that's focused on the users. So they predicted that mobile access of the internet will surpass that of PCs by 2015. I think we'll probably see that number change quite a bit sooner. And finally, what are kids these days doing? So we deal with a lot of sort of 18 to 20-year-olds in our environment. Those of you involved in public libraries probably see younger folks in your library. And they can tell us a lot about what's going to be happening in the next couple of years of online access and mobile use. So the Pew Internet and American Life Project, a senior researcher there named Mary Madden, said that in many ways teens represent the leading edge of mobile connectivity, and the patterns of their technology use often signal future changes in the adult population. So they're a predictor of times to come. Teens like their devices, and they like to connect to services and resources through their devices. Smartphone use among teens has increased dramatically, and cell mostly internet use, so people that use their cell phones instead of PC or desktop-based browsing, is much higher in this group. Teens are moving away from stationary connections at a shared computer to their own always-on connections that move with them throughout the day. So that's just a bit of an overview of what the mobile connected world looks like today, and you can see it's dramatically changing and changing very, very quickly. I'm just going to pass the presentation over to Robert now, so excuse us, there might be a little bit of a delay. He's on a different computer from me, so hang tight, everybody. Support folks, I don't see Robert listed in my presenter list here. Wade, can I pass the presentation back to you, and then can you pass it to Robert? Oh, you're getting it now. Excellent. All right. Technical problem solved.
Hello, everyone. I'm hoping you can see my screen at this point. Just going to check with Sonia to make sure. Yeah, good. So I'm happy to be here, and my name is Rob, and I'm going to talk to you a little bit about user experience. So mobile technology is obviously important to us. Sonia has pointed out all sorts of stats that support that. Teens use mobile devices a lot. In an academic library, teens are the next wave of students, and in a public library, teens are already an important customer base. So regardless of whether we're working in public or academic settings, teens represent not only the present but also the future, and the ways in which they access the web play a big role in how libraries will shape and direct their service goals. That being said, user experience has always been an important consideration in an online environment. And with the rise of mobile technologies, it is even more important because we have cell-mostly patrons. And as a result, traditional web access via PCs is diminishing. And cell access of the web happens on small screens. And that means that there's less room for error, literally, in the design of what goes on those screens. And as a result, libraries that offer mobile environments should invest in optimizing them for the best possible user experience. So I'm going to take a minute to define user experience. User experience refers to the interaction between a person and a system, including their actions and perceptions. User experience is what the person wants to do, what they actually do, and their feelings about doing it. Is everyone seeing my slides change? Okay, I see a note here that my PowerPoint is not in slide, but it is in slide mode. So I wonder, sorry about this, everyone. So what are you seeing there? Yeah. Why don't you, no, that won't work either. Sorry, just give us a second to figure this out.
Oh, so we're going to go back to Sonia for just a moment and then try and reconnect Robert.
Where's Sonia here? Okay, so hopefully this works. We're just going to switch computers and fix the problem that way. So if we can just get a confirmation. Okay, it seems to be working. So sorry about that, everyone. So I'm going to talk to you about user experience, and I'm just going to go through the slides to where I left off. I think right about here. So to help us gain a better understanding of the importance of usability and user experience, I'm going to refer to some research published in the Journal of Relationship Marketing. According to the authors, good usability or good user experience results in feelings of trust and satisfaction. To define trust in an online environment, put yourself in the shoes of the customer and ask yourself, does the company have my best interests in mind? Or And remember, this research is coming from the Journal of Relationship Marketing. So they're talking about sort of an e-commerce environment, or not generally speaking libraries, but I think that this translates really well into the library environment, in fact. So you're in the shoes of the customer and you're asking yourself, does the company, or in this case the library, is it able to do what it says it does? Is it here to profit for me? So you ask yourself these things, and you consider that in feelings of trust. And satisfaction is defined by the degree to which previous expectations are confirmed. So for example, it's my first time using the library, and a friend tells me I can get a certain book or a DVD at the library, and it wasn't there. So my feelings of are not that of satisfaction, and I guess the opposite is also true. If those things were at the library and I was told they would be there, my expectations would be confirmed, and I would feel satisfied. Trust and satisfaction produce long-term customer relationships, and users who trust in a service and are satisfied will tell their friends. These last 2 points are known as relationship marketing. And I'd like to sum that up in sort of layman's terms by saying if patrons don't like an experience, they won't talk about it. If they hate it, they'll talk negatively about it. And if they like it, they'll tell their friends. And I think these things are important to consider in a library environment. So hopefully by now we've established that user experience is important. As such, it is important to get to know our customers when considering the impacts of online user experience. And tools like Google Analytics can help us with that. For instance, an analytic tool can help you understand how customers interact within a virtual environment. They can help you understand who your customer is and what they do in that environment. And through comparative analysis, we can learn how customers use other online environments, which is useful when planning for the future of our library space. But analytics are not the only way to learn these things. At MacEwan, we've used other processes such as student interviews and user testing. And something that's been particularly helpful in learning about our users in our online space has been to interact with them through social media like Twitter and Facebook. So if we weren't in a webinar situation, I would, at this point, like to show you a video that was produced by Google Analytics to sort of advertise their product. And in this case, this particular video helps us or reveals the information that happens during the online checkout experience in an e-commerce setting. So it does a great job of demonstrating someone experiencing a virtual environment, and the video does this by reenacting an online experience in real life. So what you'll see when you watch it, and there's a link at the bottom, so I do recommend that you write that down and have a look at this video if you haven't already seen it. The video starts out by presenting a customer who wants to buy a loaf of bread, and as you can tell, the customer is happy and everything starts out very positively. But shortly after the customer gets to the teller stops him and drills him with questions, asks questions like, are you sure that's all you want? What's your username? What's your postal code? He's then asked to agree to a license agreement. It's a long and confusing agreement. He takes a moment to consider, and before you know it, the teller is timed out. So the customer restarts the checkout process. He's asked to confirm he's a real person, and he's having a little bit of trouble with that process. So the customer says, you know what, forget it, and starts to leave. But on the third try, he gets it, so he stays. So the transaction is nearly complete. The customer is asked to pay $8.95, but of course the bread was listed as 95 cents. And there's a number of other options that are presented from the teller to the customer. And in the end, the customer just says, you know, I'm going to go. And the teller says, come back soon. And the customer says, I won't. And so I think this video is it's a really great way to understand what can happen in an online space and what we don't want to happen. And of course, products like Google Analytics can help us discover when these things are happening. they really do help us evaluate the user experience. So, and of course, this is really the point. Poor online experiences damage brands and annoy customers, and that's the message Google's trying to send here. So there are a couple of other videos that you could watch that are produced by Google as well, and they're done in the same way in the Google Analytics in Real Life presentation. So there's 2 short links here for you to have a look. I'm going to pass the mic back to Sonia.
Hello, everybody. All right. So Robert took a little bit of time describing what user experience is and what it actually means and some of the impacts that it might have on a business. Often we don't think of ourselves as being in the business of providing excellent user experience. We think of ourselves as being in the business of providing information resources, providing information expertise. But I think we need to think quite hard about how it is that our online environments actually affect the way that our users interact with those information resources or the services that we provide. So we have a pretty major problem in libraries. And I just want you to think about this for a minute or two. What kind of experience do you think that our users have in our online environments? So think about things like our library websites, maybe our library catalogs, online databases, ebook platforms, or any other of those environments that people interact with on a daily basis in your library environments. So that's something to think about. We often think about how best to connect those environments together, how best to customize them in a way that makes sense to our users. So what do you think they actually do when they get to those environments? I'm going to take you through a pretty typical user experience that we have that also really demonstrates what I think is one of the major problems in our online spaces. So our problem is shared by many libraries, and I suspect other academic web spaces as well. We have multiple online environments that really lack a consistent user experience. So you can see on this screen, I've just printed out some screenshots of our library website. We have libguides or library research guides. We have a discovery tool, discovery system EDS. We have a library catalog. We have link resolvers, interlibrary loan system, e-reserve system, hundreds of distinct databases, student portal. We have Blackboard course management systems, room booking systems, and each of these different systems has a distinct web space. So there's different rooms for different functions. Many of these are customizable only to the extent that we can add some branding and tweak some of the admin settings, right? So we can make it MacEwan blue. We can add a banner or a logo, and that's about the most that we can do. As librarians, we've spent years learning to navigate the environments, and we understand how they work together, but our students are pretty baffled by what's going on. So we're a medium undergrad institution. Our students are young and connected, and they come to us with expectations built by their experiences in very different kinds of online environments. They're coming to us from Facebook. They're coming to us from Twitter. They find our space really frustrating and really difficult. And the catch for them is that they have to use it. Their profs tell them to find peer-reviewed journals using the library. They have multiple information literacy classes. They take online tutorials, and they still find it really difficult. We, as librarians, spend so much time in the classroom and at the reference desk teaching them how to navigate in between these different spaces. I think we'd rather be spending that time teaching them some deeper skills about evaluating, assessing, and using information, and less time on how and where to click to get from one space to the other space. Really, we've sort of defined this problem as being one of intuition. We can't train our users. Our users are really going to behave in ways that are intuitive to them based on the whole of their online experience. So this is a photo of Robert's cat. And essentially, he's a good representative of the students that we have in our library. We force them into awkward and uncomfortable spaces to get what they want. So typical user experience at MacEwan University, and this is pretty standard for a lot of different library environments. Basically, somebody wants to find information about something. So they type some keywords into a search box on our library website. This is our EDS search widget. They're immediately launched into something we call a discovery tool, right? So this probably looks quite familiar to many of you. You'll see our screen for our EDS discovery tool come up in a minute here. So they type some keywords into a search box. And like thousands of other libraries, we pay for this piece of software from an external vendor. This is the EBSCO product. And it looks very different from the place that they just were. They're just on the library's website. They don't know that this is vendor-provided content and isn't really part of the library's website. They think that we've designed this site, and they think that we do this on purpose. So once they're here, they'll scroll around quite a bit, and maybe they'll do some more searching, and hopefully they'll find something that they're interested in researching further. So here they found a book called Capturing Nursing History. So they click on the title to see more information about an item. And this is another screen they're presented with. They've got lots of words on the page. We're part of a consortium with a shared ILS, so they can request items from any library in the system. And this one's actually located at a separate location. So for them to get their hands on it, they have to place a hold to get it transferred to our campus, if they can find the hold button that's hidden on the top left-hand corner there. So once they click on that hold button, they're transported out of EBSCO Discovery Service and into our shared CERC library catalog, which again is a completely different user experience, a completely different interface, different navigation, different headings for things. And at this point, they have to click the hold button one more time, only to be asked to log in with a barcode and PIN number. So if they weren't frustrated before, they're frustrated now because this is a completely different information than our campus-wide authentication protocol. And nobody knows their PIN number at MacEwan. We only know our login and password. So once they've successfully placed their hold, they usually want to go back to their search, which is going to be hidden in another tab or window. They actually have to look right up at the top in something called EBSCO Discovery Service. So I feel sorry for these students. If I was presented with this process in any retail or service environment, I would likely give up or go elsewhere. We have a captive audience. They have to use our resources, so we spend a lot of time teaching them how to do these things. But it's a losing battle and a huge drain on our resources and staffing. And it doesn't create goodwill. It has a lot of impact. I don't want to devalue the advances that we've made in library technologies in the last 10 to 15 years. And vendors have been doing a pretty good job of adapting and creating new technologies. But we need to start thinking more holistically about how something as simple as finding a book in the library is impacting the student experience. So here's how our users feel about some of this stuff. So academic libraries are well aware of the shifts in user preferences and information-seeking behavior and the increasing primacy of digital access to information. So like many of our peers, MacEwan University has been focusing increasingly on building collections in electronic formats, so e-journals, e-books, streaming audio and video. We moved into granting baccalaureate degrees around 2006, and from 2007 to 2012, we increased our e-journal collections by a staggering 134%, and our e-book collections by 391%. So that's an astonishing increase in our collections access. During that time, we also subscribed to dozens of tools to host and search these formats, including journal databases, e-book platforms. Our students have unprecedented access to high-quality academic information sources immediately available in full text. So given all that information, logic suggests that student satisfaction with library collections should really be at an all-time high. However, when we measure our student satisfaction regularly, and students consistently grade the library staff and services really highly, their satisfaction with the collections has been steadily declining since 2008. So despite all that collection growth and development, our users don't really think that we're doing a good job with our collections development. We also regularly do LibQual, which is a rigorous service quality assessment. We completed this one in 2011, and it hints at what the issue might be. So we have a section dedicated to our web environment. We found that the greatest levels of dissatisfaction are focused on expectations for a website that enables users to locate information on their own, easy-to-use access tools that allow users to find things on their own, and making information easily accessible for independent use. Finally, this is just a little survey that we place on our website that just asks some really basic questions. What was your purpose of your visit to the library's website today? This person was looking for articles on occupational health. Were you able to complete your task today? No. If you weren't able to complete your task today, please tell us why. And this person stated, search engine sucks. Do you have any other comments? Much rather not have to use this site, but I guess I'll have to learn how to use it. It shouldn't be so difficult. And that really sums up the sense of what our users experience when they come to our very complicated and sophisticated web tools. It shouldn't be so difficult. It should be easy. It should be like the other experiences that I have online. Finally, I don't know if any of you can guess what I'm looking at here, but this is how our website and our library catalog appeared on a mobile device back in the summer of 2012. As you can see, it's pretty unusable. I really believe that the biggest problem we're facing in libraries today is discovery and access. The quantity of resources, how much stuff you have, and how much money you're spending on that stuff is really irrelevant if your students and faculty can't find it, or if they find it impossible to use. I'm going to turn this back over to Robert. Nope, I'm still going. Okay. User-centered design. So in our library, what are we doing to address some of those user experience concerns? So one of the major things that we need to do is to really start bringing some of those different pieces together. We want to bring some of those divergent and confusing user spaces into one spot, combine them in a nice, clean, simple space. So this concept presents some challenges because, of course, we need to have all the different tools that we have in libraries. We're dependent on our integrated library system. We're really dependent on our link resolvers and our e-journal databases. And I don't think we could begin to start designing those things on our own. Luckily, though, vendors in many of our big products have begun to provide us access to the back end of our systems and interact directly with the tool itself instead of with its user interface. APIs and web services allow us to do some of this, and Robert's going to talk about this in a little bit more detail later. But what this means is that we can use the power of these different systems and create our own user interface to do things like searching through our library resources. So we had a dream. Our dreamy new environment had some key concepts. I think the most important one from our perspective is the first here. What we wanted to do was create a web environment that had one access point replacing multiple access points. It had to have mobile and desktop interfaces. There's no way that we can continue to ignore the primacy of the mobile environment, the tablet environment. It's just becoming too important. Eventually, people will not really be using those desktop computers for things like browsing library websites anymore. Their preferred method of access is going to be a mobile environment. It needs to be user aware. It needs to know who I am, what my library account looks like, if I've got books on hold, if I'm registered in particular classes. And it needs to provide fast and intuitive access that provides, again, a consistent and predictable experience. So we broke this project down into two major phases. We started with what we saw as a major priority, which for us was mobile access. We had no mobile capacity at all when we began this project back in the summer of 2012. And you might think that that's a bad thing, but for us, it meant that we had carte blanche with our design. So we could create anything, and it would be an improvement on the world as we saw it then. We also needed to start with a really big win proof of concept beta that would generate positive response from users in our library administration and create trust in this idea, as well as give us a testing ground for a concept that was kind of uncomfortable, I think, for many of us at the beginning. So we started with an iPhone app. We also started with an iPhone app because it was a little bit sexy and could secure us some funding from outside the library. And we did find that over 70% of our students that were mobile users were iPhone users. So we had a big chunk of people that were using iPhones. The second stage of this project is a full-scale website that follows the same principles as our iPhone app, so integrates all of our services into one online space. We're hoping to launch that in fall of 2013. Inevitably, these things get pushed back a little bit, so it's likely we won't be launching that until a little bit later in the year, but still that's our dream. So we submitted a proposal to a fund that we have here at MacEwan called the Student Technology Fee Fund. And the iPhone app that we created and launched in October is our test case for this integrated concept in a fully featured responsive web environment. I don't know if any of you are familiar with Michael Edson. He did a keynote at Computers and Libraries back in 2012. And his motto, think big, start small, move fast, became our motto for this project. So think about a big plan we've got. Start with the small components that we can tackle easily, and then try to move quickly and responsively so that we can meet the need of our students when they have that need, not 2 years later. We also wanted to get this well and get it done fast. We were in the pretty awesome position of having some budget to work with, but not a huge amount of other kinds of resources that you need to do this stuff. So staff time and expertise were a little bit short on the ground here. So we outsourced quite a bit of the UI and development of this app to a great local company called Hybrid Forge. They helped us develop our vision into a reality in the iOS environment. So where are we now? We launched our iPhone app in the store on October 9th. It's been hugely successful. Since our launch, our app has been downloaded by probably close to 1,300 unique users. So when you consider that that's close to 10% of our student population, we're pretty happy with those numbers. Using the concepts that are working really well in the app, which Robert's going to demo, we're on target to launch a fully featured responsive web environment for next year. So I'm now going to turn it over to Robert, and we are going to show you a little bit of what we did.
Well, hello again, everyone. I'm hoping that that you can hear me okay. I know there were some microphone troubles. We've had all sorts of technology troubles this morning, actually. But let's hope this is working better now. So I'm going to talk to you about user-centered design. And before we work through a demonstration of our iPhone app, I'm just going to explain a few of the principles that guided our project to date, including the concept of user-centered design and an overview of the core technology that made our project possible. So in user-centered design, we put the needs of users first. The general concept is that online spaces should be designed to be user-centered. They should focus on user needs, abilities, interests, and individual learning styles. And when designed effectively, they'll foster motivation, collaboration, relationship building, and most importantly, I think in a library environment, discovery. So how do we shift the focus to user-centered design in our online spaces? And I guess the question that I could ask here too is, how do we do this in our own organizations? I think we do this by helping our organizations recognize the value of user-centered design. As libraries, we need to understand that investing in the individual characteristics that make user-centered design, such as usability and aesthetic and experience, that these have a direct return on investment, a directly resulting value, such as users who feel motivated, who collaborate, who build relationships with the organization, the library, their peers in an academic setting, users that can more easily discover library materials. And of course, all these aspects, these elements, result in feelings of trust and satisfaction, and it goes on from there. So I think that the greatest return of investment of user-centered design is that ultimately patrons' efforts are diverted from logistics of our environment to discovery and learning. In the demonstration that Sonia gave us, the experience wasn't efficient. It used energy and depleted motivation. But I think that if the experience was efficient and intuitive, energy would be put to better use, and motivation would more likely result from the process. And I think that we need to keep in mind that value, as perceived by patrons and students, tends to be based on experiences they have in places outside of the library. So if we use the internet in general as an example, it's easy to access, or it feels that way. It's fast, and it's seemingly endless. It really has an answer for everything. And in many cases, students and library users expect that the library's resources are endless as well. And their value judgment on the library is based on how easy or hard it was to find what they were looking for in comparison to their experiences in other places on the internet. They ask themselves, how long did it take? And then they compare that. What was the experience like? And along the way, did they discover more than what they originally set out to get? And that often is the case outside of the library environment. So this means then that it's more important than ever before that libraries recognize this shift in perceived value and the value of user-centered design, and respond by implementing online spaces that meet the needs of and expectations of patrons and provide a good user experience. So given the fact that we all have these services, these different library services, living in separate spaces or being presented to end users in different portals and web pages, all designed differently, incorporating user-centered design in this current environment isn't really that easy to accomplish. Unless, of course, we change up the model significantly. And to do that, we need to customize heavily. And this is possible, and we think we've been successful in this customization at MacEwan. So the current model is that we contract with third parties for solutions which are designed to solve our problems as librarians. This has been a fairly consistent approach over the years. We've always worked with vendors, and they've always provided us with solutions. And it's been good, because we can't really do most of these things on our own. Take databases, for instance, or discovery services, or ILS, although we do have some open source options there. The return on investment in most cases just isn't there for us to be able to provide these services on our own. So we effectively outsource these services. But if we change up the model by customizing a solution for our patrons to access these services, and we do this using methods for successful user-centered design, then we have the best of both worlds. We let the vendors do the heavy lifting just as they've always done, but we don't use their end user interfaces. Instead, we create our own. And when we do this, we can solve one of the biggest problems before us in libraries when it comes to achieving user-centered design, and that is to integrate services into a consolidated and seamless user experience. Building custom solutions is possible now because for the past few years, vendors have been warming up to the idea of providing libraries with access to their services through APIs or application programming interfaces. And so what this means is that there's now an opportunity for libraries to access the raw data and core functionality inside of these often proprietary software solutions without breaking the terms of use, warranty, support agreements, and the like. This access to data and functionality through APIs can take many forms, but can be simply defined as a standards-based protocol that facilitates communication between two or more software applications. So I'm going to try and visualize this here because I think having a visual model is helpful in understanding this technology. And we don't need to get into the details of this, but what you're seeing on the screen now is the current concept. It's the general practice that we have in that we have services provided by third-party vendors, and those third-party vendors provide to us a portal so that we can access those, and we then pass that along to our patrons in libraries. But with access to APIs, we have now a new method for us to be able to create a framework of our own, whether that take the form of a website or an app, and we can effectively bypass the native interfaces because we can gather the data, that core data and functionality directly from the source and present it in our own way. And we can focus on the user experience in this process. And one of the most important things here is that we can integrate more than one service into a framework. Sorry, just how are we doing for volume? We're good? Good, good. Oh, okay. At this point, I'm going to demo the iPhone app that we've created here at MacEwan that we're still building upon. Just to give you an idea of what's all involved in our iPhone app at this point, is that we have 3 separate spaces consolidated here. We have website information in our iPhone app. We have the EBSCO discovery search is present. So when you do a search in the iPhone app, we're actually using EBSCO's discovery to present users with results. And we also have integration of our Cersei ILS, which means that you can place holds on items in the account and in your personal library account and have that all integrated into one space. So I'm hoping that there's not too much of a delay here because I am going to do a little bit of a webcast. There's a bit of a video here just showing you what it's like for the user to interact with the iPhone app. So it may be delayed, but if it is delayed, it doesn't really matter that much. You can download the app on the App Store and see what it's like to actually use the app there. but I'll just walk you through each individual portion of this here. The first is authentication. So with authentication, we have three main things happening. The first is that we're connecting to our local LDAP server here at the university, which is the main authentication system and all students and faculty have an account through that main authentication system. Past that, we have the EDS integration, the EBSCO Discovery Service integration, and at this authentication process, we pass tokens along from the app that we get through this main authentication process to back to the server. So there's a connection being made there. It's authenticating behind the scenes as well, and the same thing is happening with CERSI. So we have a search demo here, which you may or may not be able to see. And during this process, what the demo is I'll just narrate what the demo is because I'm not sure that you're actually able to see it. So what's happening is we're searching for materials. We can look for both electronic materials and print materials, and we can place holds on books. We can download articles to the phone, and you can monitor your account. So you can see if you place the hold on it, you can see your account status. And right now, in the demo that I'm seeing, hopefully you're seeing it as well, I'm just placing a hold on a book through the iPhone app. We also have limit options, so most of the limit options that you would expect to see in the full web version are available here as well. And it does seem that most of this is coming through, so I'm just looking on a different screen here, and so I won't forward past this. I'll let it play out. It's taking a little bit longer. It's not real time from what I'm seeing, so I'll just wait a few seconds here. We have some share features built in to the app here as well. So you can save an article to the phone through the app, but you can also email it. And if you have things like Dropbox or Google Drive installed on your phone, you can also share it to your saved folders there as well. A full set of account options are available here, so you can place holds on items, check to see which items are out. You can renew items. You can see which fees you have as well. And we have library information built in. So this is general information that you would get from the library website, such as hours, locations, map details, that sort of thing. You can have directions brought to you so that you can drive from one place to the next, from library to library, that sort of thing. And this is just general information that we're pulling from the website through a set of local APIs that we've created. So the next steps are that we want to duplicate this experience on the web. Sonia's already told you that that's what's next for us. We want to continue to integrate more systems. So we want to take more content from third-party providers and integrate that into our experience. We've shown you that we've done that with two third-party providers, our ILS and our Discovery service at this point. We've also built in our website information, but we want to go beyond that. And we also need to provide access for all devices, and we're looking at a responsive web design to cover our bases there. So that's pretty much the presentation at this point. I'd like to, again, apologize for the technical difficulties we've had. And at this point, if there's any questions, we'd be happy to take them.
We do have one question, Rob. Can you talk a bit about what you've done for Android users and how responsive is your third-party app designer to updating APIs?
Sure. The first question is with Android devices. At this point, we have not built our app out for Android, and we're thinking about how to continue in the future, what to do next. And we're thinking definitely we're going to work with responsive web design. So we're going to build this into the web environment first, the real web, as in the web you would access on a PC. We're going to use responsive web design, and that's going to allow us to cover our basis for most of or all of the mobile devices available because we'll be using responsive web design so that it's an optimal experience on each device. And the second question, could you repeat the second question, Wade?
How responsive is your third-party app designer to updating APIs?
They're pretty responsive, and I'll take that to mean that when APIs on our third-party providers' ends change, that of course we need to modify our platforms to adjust to that. We've had that happen a couple of times, and they've been very responsive. And they've also been willing and able to help us in certain situations to create APIs locally. So they've been really good to work with. They understand where we want to go with this project, and so I think we've had a really successful experience with them to date.
We do have one more question. You mentioned the number of downloads that have happened from the App Store. Do you know if students are regularly using the mobile app, and have you tested their satisfaction with the app?
Yes, we have, and we've done both. We have a set of analytics. It's not through Google at this point. It's called Flurry Analytics, and that allows us to see what kinds of actions are happening in the app. So what parts of the app are being used and which parts aren't. So we can continually look at that to find out, if we've hidden something in the navigation that we need to make more present, or if you can sort of tell if students are trying to go a certain direction and we've made a dead end. So we use those analytics on a regular basis to adjust, and we're on the third or fourth now release of the app. So we've made those changes based on analytics, and we're really happy that we've been able to do that. What was this? Sorry. User testing was the second part of the question.
Have you tested satisfaction?
We've done that. Yes, and we've done that with actually students sitting around a table and having and recording their actions on a screen. So we've had a number of librarians here who have worked through that process with students, and it's been extremely helpful.
Great. If there are no other questions for Rob and Sonia, I'd like to thank both of them for sharing their work on MacEwan's mobile app and the strategy development for creating the integrated web environment that they're working towards. They've definitely given us some interesting ideas for thinking about how to make our own web environments more mobile-enabled and supportive. I'd also like to thank Kiara Healy and Amy Lana, members of the ALCTS CE Tech Support Subcommittee, who helped to provide the technical support for our webinar today. And thanks also to all of our attendees. We hope that you found today's session useful. You will soon receive a short online evaluation form. If you could take a few minutes to respond to the questions and return the form to us, that would be great. Your comments are very valuable and help the ALCTS CE committee to plan new and continuing education committees activities. As I mentioned earlier, you'll also receive a link to the webinar recording and a copy of Sonia and Robert's slides. And our presenters will also answer any questions that we didn't get to during the session, and responses will be sent to all of you. Information about all the ALCTS webinars and other continuing education offerings can be found on the ALCTS homepage, and suggestions for additional topics or speakers are always very welcome. We're glad that you were able to join us this afternoon, and we hope that you will participate in other ALCTS programs again in the future.